को मेरा अभिवादन और हार्दिक नमन। श्री शिशिर जयपुरिया जी और उनके परिवार तथा श्री मल्होत्रा जी और उनकी संस्थाओं के सभी प्रमुख टीम लीडर्स और प्रिय छात्र और छात्राओं, सामान्य तौर पर मैं हिंदी में ही बोला करता था, लेकिन जो विषय इन्होंने रखा उसकी शब्दावली को अभी हिंदी में उस स्तर पर अनुदित नहीं किया गया है। इसलिए बोलचाल में या सामान्य भाषण में तो उसका उपयोग किया जा सकता, लेकिन जब इन्होंने बताया कि इस कार्यक्रम में केवल छात्र और छात्राएं नहीं होंगे बल्कि बहुत से बुद्धिजीवी, उद्योगपति और शायद ये कार्यक्रम आप अन्य संस्थाओं को शायद जूम के माध्यम से देते हैं, तो फिर मुझे कुछ अपनी पुरानी इस शैली में बदल करने की आवश्यकता महसूस हुई। तो इसलिए अब मैं भाषण का लिखित अंश सामने रखना चाहता हूं, पर इससे पहले मैं ये बता दूं कि जब श्री शिशिर जी मेरे पास आए थे तो मैं कोई अच्छे स्वास्थ्य की हालत में नहीं था, इसलिए मैं जो शुरू कर रहा हूं उसमें उसका भी थोड़ा सा उल्लेख करना चाहूंगा। Now it is indeed a great pleasure for me to address this morning such an enlightened and academically oriented assembly gathered from renowned educational institutions situated in different parts of this state and northern India. Initially, I was quite hesitant to accept this invitation due to my health. But because of the sweet persuasion of Shri Shishir Ji and my respect for the Jaipuria family, and particularly for late Shri Rajaram Ji, in whose memory this lecture is being organized, and with whom I had a very long association, I had no other option but to accept this invitation. I may confess that even today I am not in a proper frame of health. And as you know, the adage goes, a sound mind in a sound body. So I might not be delivering a lecture from a sound body, and will try to coordinate the mind and body if, to the extent it is possible for me. I do not want to deal with the Jaipuria family and their contribution to India, to Kanpur, to industrial sections, and to the education, and especially the contributions made by Shri Rajaram Jaipuria ji. Much of that has been shown, and I think much more can be shown because of the paucity of time. It's only a small piece of his attainments and his contributions were shown. What I consider is that one of the most important part of his life, that he turned around a situation which was normally supposed to be impossible. That's the part of his life which I think the students must be made known. How he converted the whole opportunity into a much better future. That is something very strange. That is the striking part. That is the ennobling part. That is the inspiring part of his life. And That is, I think, another aspect where he could challenge the onslaught of a political decision which converted all the, I may say, earnings and acquisitions into dust. And from there he revived it and made a totally different life for the company and for himself. Dr. Rajaram Jaipuria's interest in education, social welfare and philanthropy activities were phenomenal, and the most profound guiding leitmotif of his life was, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life what we give. Now this is something very important which we must remember, that which made his vision of his life, for his future life. And he was a spiritual person, and he had great interest in promoting the cultural, spiritual, and religious values of this country. And as you have seen, the foundation of a Ram temple in Chitrakoot. As a matter of fact, it was Sri Nanaji Deshmukh who introduced me to Sri Jaipuria and the other members of the family. So that way, I have a very long association with Sri Jaipuria and his lifelong ambition to create a new India based on Indian values. And I am happy that the entire Jaipuria family has ardently espoused the vision of upholding India's rich cultural heritage, while at the same time embracing the modern in all its good aspects. It's a combination of the ancient and the modern. I am glad to note that the 77-year-old legacy is now being carried forward under the able leadership of Sri Shishir Jaipuria. Sri Rajaram Jaipuria ji, as you have known, was a great entrepreneur, and he encountered numerous adverse situations, and he very successfully feathered all those storms. I pay homage to that great Karmayogi, Dr. Rajaram Jaipuria. Now I have been asked to speak on building a sustainable future through education. Now there are three words in it, key words: education, sustainability, and future. So I would try to dissect my ideas in three parts. Now the aim of education is twofold: collective and individual. At the collective level, the aim is to make an individual into a good citizen. That is a person with harmonious relationship with other members of the community, a person useful to the society, and the one who fulfills his obligations as a citizen. And I'm talking not only in context of India, but I'm talking in a global context. That is how a citizen should be perceived from the standpoint of education. At the individual level, a person or a student expects an educational institution or educational system to help him develop a strong and healthy body, build his character, attain self-mastery, and supply him with opportunities to discover and realize his natural abilities. One of the most important aspects of education, which we are nowadays completely forgetting, is the harmony between body and mind, and later on also the spirit. But both expectations are justified, but it is necessary to understand the relationship between the individual and the society. and that the aspiration of the need to be mutually harmonized, the aspiration of an individual and the aspirations of the society, the aspirations of a country, the aspirations of the world. So you have to harmonize. So the education must lead to such a situation where this harmonious relationship is maintained, or rather it is also furthered. The human mind tends to emphasize on one or the other, and the current domination thought is that individual interest must be subordinated to the societal interests. Now this is something very peculiar, that you are trying to subjugate an individual to the societal. You want to create an individual not for his own personal feelings or his moorings, but from the point of view of society. But you are saying so many intellectual persons are needed in this section. We want so many electronic engineers. We want so many climate engineers. We want so many skilled computer trainers. So what you are trying to do is subjugating the personal instinct, the personal qualities, the personal, what you can say, the direction in which an individual wanted to grow to the societal needs. You say, no, India should produce so many computer engineers, so many chemical engineers, so many business accountants, or so many business managers. So this is how you are trying to shape the society. That is something important which has changed. I think that we have to consider this point very seriously. And India has done it, I think, in the very dawn of its civilization, how to solve this problem. Since the very dawn of human civilization, the Indian mind had reflected on the nature of the universe and every constituent of the physical world around us, and also their interrelationship, and had discovered the fundamental unity of entire cosmic phenomena. This was perhaps the first enunciation of the holistic nature of the universe. In this approach, the human persona is not only a body, but it is a continuum of perpetually and mutually interacting body, intellect, mind, and spirit. I'm not using the word soul because people in other parts of the world, they do not understand the real meaning of the soul. They use the word spirit. But in India, in Indian jargon, we use the word Atma. Holism, therefore, tells us that all objects and events in the physical world are interdependent and inseparable parts of the cosmic whole. This is the most fundamental principle of our understanding of universe. How to interpret it? The Western mind has understood it as a machine. Their understanding is universe as a machine, the mechanistic model of universe. But what we say is not mechanistic, but it is holistic. And that says that holistic view therefore demands that mankind must learn to live in peace and harmony with the environment, because environment and mankind are not separable. They are part of the same universe. As a matter of fact, can you conceive the existence of human body without environment? Or what is the meaning of environment if there is no human being to utilize the bounties of the environment? Therefore, the Indian mind has said long back, thousands of years ago, that these two entities are inseparable. They are the same. And how they said it? They decided that any educational system must take into account the inseparability of humankind and human environment. Indian mind had therefore realized and explained this relationship by declaring what which is in the macrocosm is also in the microcosm, which says, normally you use that word aham brahmasmi, that what I am in the cosmos, so I am in the body. The scientific word is now saying is that whatever is in the macrocosm is also in the microcosm. That is, the human body or any particle in universe is a representative of the universe as a whole. The holism says it, that each part of the whole has the miniature universe in it. Therefore we say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the same as the universe. And this philosophy had ultimately led to the famous doctrine of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Because now we are not separable, we are inseparable. That is, world is a family. So now take the right from the beginning, but you say that we want so many people to cover this aspect of market. Market demands this. So you are creating a not a family, but a market. So you have to consider whether the education should create human beings fit for a market or fit for a family. There is a fundamental difference between a family and a market. In a market, you can only come with some money in your purse or in your, what you say, accounts nowadays, whatever it is, but without that, you have no place in that. You will be thrown out of market if you go without money. You have only existence in a market so long you are an economic being in one way or the other. But in a family, you will be welcome. A market will not welcome you. A hotel will not welcome you without money. But a family will welcome you. You reach a family even at midnight and knock the door. Some person would say, ask you. First they will say, Aiye, please, who are you? Kahan se aa rahe ho? Baitho. He will not say, have you money in your pocket or not? I have not seen Indian families. There may be families in the other parts of the world. But in India, a family would first ask, कहाँ से आए हो? क्या मामला है? क्यों आए हो इस रात? साहब भाई मुझे कुछ चाहिए, पानी चाहिए, ये चाहिए, रास्ता भूल गया हूँ. Something like that. But you will not throw him out. But in a hotel, he will be thrown out immediately. There's a kuch hai. This is the fundamental difference between, you see. So the world is a family and is not a market. You start from the very beginning. So you have to see education for what? For creating world as a family or world as a market. So this is, I think, an important point which educationists in India should keep in mind. For whom are you educating and for what? So now world is a family, and we also realize that the relationship between an individual, that is a microcosm, and his environmental, both societal and natural, are symbiotic and organic. You can't say that the relationship between an individual and the rest of society is economic. It is functional. No, it is emotional. To an extent, I will go one step forward. It is spiritual. India has recognized the spiritual relationship between human being and all environment, whether it is animal environment or whether it is a plant environment, or when we should call say the inert environment and the cosmos. They say no, we are part of the same family, of the same system. You cannot separate one from the other. So if the educational system does not produce a mind like that, I think it's going to something in a direction which does not suit the Indian experience of human civilization. Now I say that I may give you some very interesting aspect of education. How we should think about developing human mind. And for that I will quote Bertrand Russell. He pointed out that the physical universe is continuously expanding according to the astronomers. You जानते हैं हमारे पुराने what the astronomers are telling us about the expanding universe. Everything that is near us is moving away, and the farther it is, the speedier it is. The universe is moving. Everything is moving. And the farther you are, the greater is the speed. Something very interesting. So everything that is nearest is moving away, and remoter things are receding even farther. So we have to stretch our imagination both in space and in time to an extent unknown before. The expanding universe. We are part of the universe. You see, I started from that we are part of the universe, or rather we are the universe itself. And then the science tells us that the universe is expanding with great speed. I don't know how much speed. But still it says, I don't discuss about this Milky Way and others, but the distance of each of these galaxies and others is so vast that it takes about 2 million years for light to traverse. And it's still expanding and expanding. The sun, our sun, luminous sun, weighs about 2 billion tons. And the Milky Way weighs about 160,000 million times as much as the sun. This is what you can observe. Milky Way you can observe. The intensely huge part of the universe is empty, or very nearly so. So the mind has to stretch its utmost to even begin to understand this vastness. You are you are part of a universe which is so vast, which is not between you and me, which is not just a family, which is not just a business, which is not a company, but it is something huge of which you are a part. You may feel that you are a very small part, but still you are part of a huge cosmos. This is mind-boggling expanse for a human being now in 21st century. Now a moment's thought, I may say that even in India, some of the yogis have a comprehension of the vastness of the universe. They have described it. Now a moment's thought about the cosmic theater fills us with awe. But at the first reaction is over, the rational mind realizes that there is no great quality that is essentially connected with the size. आपका डिमांड बहुत छोटा है, इसमें से मैं आ जाता है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप इतने वास्ट को नहीं समझ सकते. दूसरी एक खास बात है कि because you are a part of the universe, therefore with this small apparatus you can comprehend the universe. So education must take us to that height. And I will say that if the intellect becomes cosmic, but feelings and his emotions remain local, a disharmony would be produced which would be disastrous. That is in effect the wisdom must grow. Wisdom can be said to be harmony of knowledge, emotions and feelings, which does not come out with the growth of knowledge. It means if you are having a huge library or a set of computers, you have become knowledgeable? No, sir. Knowledge is something different. So this has to be borne in mind, that the difference between education, knowledge, and the space which you have to cover, your inner space and the outer space, and they must be harmonized. So the game of the educational institution must devise such things, and not only confuse with the problems of every day, but think about the future of the universe, the part of which you are there. Are we moving in sync with the universe? Are we also moving with the same speed? I'm not. When I was teaching you, and this day, whatever I taught you has become now redundant. And what you read has now become redundant. And what my younger students, and some of them who are sitting here, might be knowing more than me about this what you call the handling of the so-called this new technology. They handle it very fast. Sometimes I find a kid 2-3 years ago also handles a computer-like device without difficulty. When Mr. Deepak was student, this was not known. Now, what his children are knowing, he will not be knowing. And what now their children will be knowing will be completely something different for me. For them, I am become a old foggy. You can't handle it. I can do this. I can so many bites. I say I don't bite. But I say no, but the bite is the most important word, which I must know. So the question is that we must know that the education must concern with the totality of life and not just have responses to the immediate challenges. Therefore, whatever challenges are being faced today, they might become obsolete after some time. So you have to be very careful and keep yourself apace. But you can't do it in the physical space. For this, you have to create a mental space. Otherwise, I have a danger that this question, whom do you want to educate and for what, has to be solved. What is the aim and purpose of this education? If you have to, for me, but I've been raising this question for a large number of years, you have to decide whether you want to provide a happy, contented, peaceful, and creative society, or the one busy in the mad race for accumulating more and more material stuff and consequently degenerating into a ruthless and violent society with cutthroat competition. You have to decide whether humankind should remain happy, contented, peaceful, servicing for each other with love and emotions, or you want to have a materially oriented society with cutthroat throats, the competition, and also the violence. You see, the violence, which the world today is much more violent. You see, these 90 years of my life, I find the world has moved from peace to violence in a much, higher steps. It is impossible to conceive a world now without violence. Can you consider a single question, say a single country, a single society, even your own neighborhood? Are you safe? Are you peaceful? Are you happy? Or you are always envious, jealous? Now, these are the important aspects of human development. And for that, I think education and educationists must think very carefully. It's all about education. Now, something about sustainability. I don't know how much time is there. Anyway, but I must know something to my house. I will skip those portions which I can easily skip. Now, what is sustainability? Sustainability, the dictionary meaning is simple. It says to keep in existence, to maintain oneself, to prolong your life or prolong whatever you are, to keep someone from falling or sinking, or support the vitality and his strength, and so on. So when you say about sustainable future, you are apprehensive about your future. That is the first big question which arises to my mind. Why are you sustainable? But there is something wrong with the present. So it simply means that you want to maintain what you possess and want to keep it secure and do not allow it to further deteriorate, and you want it to grow. Now, in 1992 report, world scientists warning to humanity, signed by more than 100 scientists, including 101 Nobel laureates from 70 countries. Human beings, what they say is human beings and the natural world are on a collision course. Human activities inflict harsh and often irreversible damage to the environment and to the critical sources. If not checked, many of our current practices put at the serious risk the future that we wish for the human society and the plant and the animal kingdoms, and may also alter the living world, that it will be unable to sustain life in the manner we know it. Fundamental changes are urgent if we are to avoid the collision of our present course will bring about. The warning was supported by, in 2001, by World Bank and other institutions, and what they said was that at an alarming rate of environmental degradation has occurred, and some cases it is accelerating. Across the development world, environment problems are imposing severe human, economic, and social costs, and threatening the foundation upon which the growth and ultimately the survival depends. In 1972, the then Secretary General of UNO, UTHA, he warned that the world's current problems were already beyond anyone's capacity to control. Mind it, in 1972, the UNO was warning the humankind that the world's current problems were already beyond anyone's capacity to control. Or was he premature? Or maybe the confident statement of the 1982 World Commission on Environment was correct, the near one. The latest one is from Kofi Annan, who also says it and ultimately says that environmental issues must be fundamentally repositioned in the policy-making processes of countries, of societies, whether it is educational, whether it is economic. Only when this is reflected in fully accounting these policies can economic policies assure that development can be sustainable, otherwise not. How can we make this development sustainable? To ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Mind it what I'm saying. How can we make the present development as a sustainable? Today is the day when we are talking of sustainable development. How can we attain it? I say, how can the development be sustainable and to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising with the needs of the future? That is, यार हम खुद खा जाएं और बच्चों के लिए कुछ ना हो. That is not allowed. That is not sustainable development. That is destruction total. So these are the questions which are for sustainability. How can these questions be answered? Yet it is important that everyone develop well-considered answers to the questions above. I don't know whether people have tried to find out the solutions or not. But the problem to my mind arises because we do not recognize the fundamental principle that it is impossible to have finite growth on a limited planet. You cannot have a finite growth in a limited. Therefore, you have to redesign your concept of growth. What is the meaning of growth? How much growth? And for what? And in what manner? I will not deal with that aspect because that takes a little more time, but I keep this for you, the question to be decided by the educational institutions, by the technical institutions, by the political institutions. If there is no will in the political systems all around the world, the international political system has failed. They have not been able to provide us the, what you call a sustainable environment. The dangers of environmental holocaust is increasing every day. So how do you meet that? What type of education, what type of sustainable development? The only answer is that you must keep in mind that you cannot grow beyond the limits of the planet. The planet has a limit. Therefore, the concept of development, to my mind, should be changed from development to consumption. Rather, talking about sustainable development, we should talk about sustainable consumption. That is a consumption which can be provided to the largest number of human beings, not only human beings, but also to the environment also. India, we had been trying right from the ages. लोग उसे कहते हैं आप क्या वो कर रहे हैं अंधविश्वास कि आप पेड़ को पानी दे रहे हैं. No, we know it that we have to replenish the planet because if the fauna dies and flora dies, the human cannot exist. Can you survive without a cow or a buffalo or something which gives you fruits? You can't. You have to have a company. There's a family. They are all part of your family. And if you can say only we will stay and you will not, let the trees be cut. Let the this what you call this animal kingdom maybe cut. We can eat all of them. There is no difficulty for us. But will you survive? So you have to keep the sustainability not in the way in which the Western countries have decided, are forcing upon us. You must develop like this. How? How can we? Today, India is one of the largest populated country. In 5 years or 10 years' time, it may have, and it will add few million more. Now, how to provide food? You may say you are developing, but what about the food? Somebody has to provide it. Somebody has to provide the other nourishments. So how to do it? And your land is limited. And you are expanding. Well, you are growing. But can that growth be sustained? That is the point. Therefore, the concept which I have been propagating for last at least 30 years, that we must shift our whole understanding of universe and human existence from unnatural development to sustainable consumption. Unless there is a match within them, that the sustainability of the consumption and the sustainability of the development, they go hand in hand. If you can create such a society, that will be a sustainable society. So we must think about this. That I think is something. I know. So now, last word, and that is about the future. I am only quoting one paragraph from the lecture of Dr. Anil Kakotkar. He was one of India's greatest atomic scientists. And the question was that we are talking of India becoming developed, super developed, more developed, and ultimately in the category of the developed countries, or maybe the highest developed country. We are talking every day. It's nothing wrong about talking and having all the different understandings of human society and nature. It is not. But now he says, now for a practical point of view, when do you say that you are a very developed country? Then he says, Kakotkar says, I'm not saying anything, but in this last page I'm saying is not from me. I'm quoting verbatim from his lecture. To me, you want to see India as a developed country. I would say a single line definition. The standard of living of Indians should be comparable with the best in the world. Then I would say India is developed. It is as simple as that. That would mean not India becoming the topmost economy, but that would mean that per capita income should be comparable with the best in the world. Then he says there is a huge difference between the two, having per capita income and having a large income. Now, I don't discuss about that part of his lecture. Now he says, if you look at the correlation between the per capita income and the huge income, the national income, then you say there is a huge difference between the two, leave that aside. If you look at this correlation, we are talking about getting human development index comparable with those blue triangles, countries with high quality of life. Let us look at the minimum or threshold to reach there in total energy terms, because for development you need energy. The only most important part is in whatsoever way, whether it is solar, whether it is wind, whether it is electrical, whether it is nuclear, or whether it is now the that what you call the hydrogen, whatever it is. But now he says, look at the minimum or threshold to reach there in total energy terms. How do we reach that quality of life? He says, I'm not talking about electricity alone. It is around 2,000 kilogram of oil equivalent per person at the moment. Now what he says, leave all those things, clean that from that. Currently, India's energy consumption is around 5,000 terawatt per hour per year. So we have to grow from 5,000 to 28,000 terawatt if you want to grow equal to those developed countries, if you want to be at that par. So the gap is how much? From 5,000 terawatts to 28,000. How do you reach it? How do you reach it? I'm not discussing its economy, if I can discuss it. But you see, how do you reach it? You think only that there are, the only way is to reach is to follow the industrial patterns or the scientific patterns designed by different Western countries. You have to reevaluate about your situation, about your problems, and how much you can do it and in what time, and whether it is desirable to reach and go in that direction or not. That is a question which I raise for future. What future you want? A future which is dependent on technology and money and so many other things on Western countries or different countries? Or are you in a position to have something of your own? Can you give a new direction to the energy consumption? Can you find some other methods of producing low energy materials? Can you? If you cannot, I'm talking it now, this is my words, then you will not be able to survive. That's why I'm saying it. And therefore, for last so many years, I'm saying that please don't follow this GDP model that is disastrous. Markets will not decide whether you are happy or not. But today in the morning, I find Bachchanji is selling that Golgappa. Then in the morning, he sells this scooty or this car. In the afternoon, he sends something else, some other model. So in the morning until the evening, Mr. Bachchan, one of the most celebrated actors, and one of the most celebrated actors, and perhaps which is known as the father of the modern day acting. In the morning I find him, भुजिया खा लो, बच्चों जी को बहुत भुजिया अच्छा लगती है, फिर लगता है कि उनको ये वाला शरबत अच्छा लगता है. तो सुबह से शाम तक, how many times the personality of our icon is changing. So what is this market? In the morning of Bombay, if you go, in the market you find, I think now in Delhi it has also started. सुबह दूध का दाम आज इतना, दोपहर को दूध का दाम इतना, शाम को दूध का दाम इतना. So the market does not give you the real value, the real content. It simply gives you an index. And that index may not be suitable to your culture, to your genetic code, as I say. You may not be able to do it. And there is only one country which has given us a little hope, and I think that must be thoroughly discussed on international pattern. That is Bhutan. They said, no, this GDP business is not correct. We should go for happiness index. How much is any society or any economic system is making you happy? And therefore, the question of happiness has to be decided. So the future of the world lies in finding out true happiness. All these other calculations, computations may lead you to some more accumulation of that material stuff, but it may not lead you to a happy, progressive, serving, emotionally attached human society. And that's all is in the education must.
देश विदेश की ताज़ा तरीन खबरों से अपडेट रहने के लिए आप हमारे चैनल को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब करें और साथ ही बेल आइकन को भी ज़रूर दबाएं ताकि सभी खबरों से आप और आपके जानने वाले रह सके अपडेट। देश विदेश की ताज़ा तरीन खबरों से अपडेट रहने के लिए आप हमारे चैनल को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब करें और साथ ही बेल आइकन को भी ज़रूर दबाएं ताकि सभी खबरों से आप और आपके जानने वाले रह सके अपडेट।